my insane ghost story, and the rabbit hole I went down searching for a man. Part 1. Welcome back! Let me tell you a really messed up story. It happened right after Mr. Protein Shake and I broke up. Yes, I know I said I was taking a break from dating, and I did, right after this truly traumatizing set of events took place. Many years ago, after I graduated, I met a guy, let's call him Mr. Fatty. He worked for the same company as me, but in a different branch outside my country. We met during my first ever business trip to Dubai. I was a new hire, and he already had an established position in the company. For reasons I didn't understand, he took an interest in me. As I said, he was much higher in the hierarchy, and I knew very little about him other than that he was quite a mean manager. However, he was always incredibly kind to me. He often wrote to me on our company messenger and went out of his way to spend time with me whenever he visited our office. He even asked me out outside of work hours when he was in my town, sometimes bringing surprisingly generous gifts, which made me feel super weird and awkward accepting them. Fast forward a couple of years, during which I changed jobs multiple times. I found myself heartbroken, yet again, after my fat-shaming boyfriend, Mr. Protein Shake, decided we needed to go our separate ways. It was springtime, and out of nowhere, I got a phone call from Mr. Fatty. He was in my city again and wanted to meet up. Having nothing better to do, I accepted his invitation. I don't remember ever truly enjoying our small get-togethers. They were awkward, we really didn't have much to talk about. His English was okay, but not great. And he always felt off, like there was anger bubbling just beneath the surface. Our conversations usually revolved around work. He, as a manager, would complain about my colleagues who reported to him, colleagues who also happened to hate his guts. I never really paid much attention to their issues with him. I kind of liked that I had this secret camaraderie with him that no one knew about. So we met up for drinks. At first I could not recognize him. He was Mr. Fatty no more. He looked completely different. He had lost a bunch of weight, going from unhealthy fat to kinda skinny. That night, our conversation was also one of the best we'd ever had. Instead of talking about work, we opened up about our failed relationships. He was staying in the city for another couple of weeks, during which we hung out multiple times. At first, I didn't have any romantic feelings for him and often declined his invitations. I would rather stay home and cry my eyes out over my recent breakup than have dinner with him. However, during one of our get-togethers, I told him I was planning a soul-searching, eat, pray, love-style trip. My work contract was about to expire and wouldn't be renewed, another fantastic revelation that came shortly after my breakup. I swear, when it rains, it pours. So yeah, I told him about my plan to travel, maybe to Nepal. He immediately started persuading me to visit his home country instead, Lebanon. This was almost 15 years ago, before the war in the region erupted. Then, he picked up his phone and called his brother, and for the first time since I had known him, he spoke Arabic in front of me. Arabic had always fascinated me. I had studied it for years, though I never got good enough to actually use it. But oh my God, how much I loved hearing it. It was music to my ears. Suddenly, I started seeing this man in a very different way. Suddenly, I felt an attraction. A few days later, I booked my ticket to Beirut and started looking for affordable accommodation. Eventually, a few days before his scheduled return, I invited him over to my place to express my gratitude for helping me organize the trip. His brother sent me an official invitation to help me get through passport control easily, and he gave me tons of tips on where to go. So I cooked, baked, and cleaned all day. And when he arrived that evening, for the first time ever, I found myself flirting with him. A few hours later, we ended up making out on my couch. The chemistry between us took me by complete surprise. He was an amazing kisser. After years of being with a mediocre kisser, Mr. Protein Shake was far from passionate. I finally felt fire and desire inside me. After that, we spent every evening together, meeting up and kissing some more. Back then, I was definitely someone who took things slowly and didn't sleep around, even if I really wanted to. And believe me, I was dying to have sex with him. The kissing sessions we had were like nothing else. Before he left, he promised he would meet me in Lebanon a month later during my trip. We stayed in touch after he left. We texted each other all day, every day. However, he was very unclear about the details of his trip to Lebanon, keeping my plans in suspension. He made me believe till the last day he would be there, but he never came. I was bummed. I made the most of my trip hanging out with people I met there, but feeling guilty for liking anyone or even having a flirt. However, we never defined our relationship, and the whole point of that trip was getting over my ex, have fun, maybe even have a summer romance. So one evening, I ended up making out with a guy I met there. Nothing more happened. Nevertheless, I felt an incredible guilt. Mr. Fatty kept calling me all the time and telling me how much he adores me, which made the guilt so much worse. Overall, the trip was full of ups and downs. On one hand, I finally visited one of the most magical countries, visited ancient sites, had insanely delicious food, and met really kind people and some really sexy men. On the other hand, I couldn't shake off the feeling of disappointment, of being stood up. After my trip, I spent weeks texting and having long phone calls with Mr. Fatty. Somehow, I found myself in my very late 20s in a long-distance situationship. He seemed serious about me, constantly saying how much he adored me, how crazy he was about me, and how he wanted to bring me to Dubai, which back then was one of my biggest dreams. Then in mid-August, he suddenly told me he had booked a flight to my city. By that time, whatever passion we had seemed to be fading, so when he announced he'd be staying with me, I wasn't exactly thrilled. Not only did I have a tiny apartment, but we had never been intimate. We had only kissed a handful of times over a 4-day period. That was it. I wasn't comfortable with him staying over, but in the end, I didn't say anything. After all, he was traveling all this way to see me. And that's when things started getting really weird. Sure enough, he came on Saturday afternoon, and immediately things got quite strange. Something was off, the kisses felt different, and it was awkward as hell right off the bat. He didn't want to eat the food I had prepared for him, and shortly after he arrived, he left my place to meet some friends. Excuse me? He just got here, and 40 minutes later, he leaves me to meet up with someone I've never heard him talk about before. Another weird thing was that he didn't bring me anything, not a single thing. And no, I'm not a materialistic person, but he promised to bring baklava, a set of Middle Eastern sweets I was absolutely crazy about, but couldn't get in my country back then. Another thing was a gift he told me he sent for my birthday, but somehow there was a post office mix-up and it was returned to him. It was a necklace, and he promised he'd give it to me personally. So I couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. Later that evening, he texted me that he was at some bar and that I should join him. And join I did. I don't remember much from that evening, though. We drank and watched a belly dancer show. The next day felt a bit better. We ended up walking across the town for hours. Then, in the evening, he suddenly expressed how much he wished to meet my parents, which pretty much came out of nowhere, but was a welcome progression for our whatever we were. We did not have sex that night, or the night before for that matter. The next day, on Monday, he went to the office, even though he was supposed to be on vacation. After he came back in the afternoon, we grabbed a cup of coffee together, and while I was in the shower, he got a phone call from his brother in Lebanon. Apparently, his nephew had a serious accident. He fell into an empty swimming pool and was now in the hospital. And that was it. Suddenly, Mr. Fatty was frantically packing, and within 15 minutes, he was gone. He was supposed to get on a plane taking him to Vienna, then Dubai, and then Beirut. The whole thing felt surreal. I couldn't fully comprehend what was happening. It was all so fast. I tried to help him, offering to go with him to the airport, or at the very least, walk him to the taxi stand. He didn't even want me to walk him out of the building. While he was running downstairs, I followed him, and in a quick moment of clarity, I asked if he was coming back. I don't know why I asked him that, and I don't remember his response. It was all so strange. That was it. And just like that, he was gone. To be continued.